us about.
Great, thank you. Is that you can hear that?
That is.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Kia ora. I'm Jacinda, or Jac Stevenson, and I'm just an ordinary person representing an extraordinary beachside community. I've been a resident for 28 years in Tahunanui, although my postcode has since, about 5 years ago, changed to Moana, but I still consider myself a Tahunanui resident. I am the chair of the Tahunanui Business and Citizens Association, and I'm also the chair of the Tahunanui Community Hub. And they're both volunteer roles.
Thank you.
Tēnā koutou. My name is Jude Osborne. I am the secretary for the Tahunanui Business Citizens Association. Excuse my nerves.
That's all right.
Yes, it's a voluntary role. I work full time. I'm also on other committees and trustee board. Tahunanui is just a great place to live. It's a beautiful community. It's got a lot of vitality and great people.
Thank you.
And with us is our other member, Simmons, who is also a member of our association.
Thank you. I've got your names on this piece of paper, but now I think have you got a PowerPoint presentation? Is that right? Is that,
Yes.
It's been handed out. Is that going to get put on the screen? Is that possible, or doesn't it? I mean, I've got a copy in front of me, but what's the plan, Harry? With the, it's coming.
Oh, that's great.
So it is quite good, because otherwise no one else can see it. That was what I was thinking of, really. So thank you for that. There we go.
So we're going to start with, what is the most important thing in the world?
He's given you a dootha
okay.
to move
I'm terrible
forward.
with these things, so
No, that's okay. Do your best. Oh no, well, yes. Do your best. Okay.
So, as the proverb says, what is the most important thing in the world? He tangata, it is people. And this is our response to Private Plan Change 30 from the TBCA.
Yep.
So, it's about people, not property. Jack, do you have...
I'll carry on with mine now.
Okay, I'll just take it through. So, Tahunanui is much more than just properties with a financial value. It's a place, it's a destination, it's voted one of the best beaches in the world. It is a place that there's a strong contrast between prosperity and not so prosperous people, but we also have great social institutions to help cover this. Being a good neighbour means being reasonable and tolerant of other people's views and lifestyles. It also means considering how our behaviour affects others. Good neighbours are considerate, tolerant and understanding of others and their lifestyles. And we found that just by Googling it. So it's a good definition of neighbourhood. The Tahunanui Business and Citizens Association recognises that growth and change in the region is inevitable and important, and we fully embrace and support this. We really do. All we ask is for the same courtesy to be given to those who choose to call Tahunanui home and to those who visit us from all around the world. Unfortunately, in this process, we found that there had been no meaningful local consultation. There was very selective distribution of information. Brochures went on display in the local library or at the council offices in written form. And until we raised this with the Mayor, Nick Smith, in week 3 of the 4-week submission period, there was no printed copies available. Some parties with strong interest, or stakeholders, which is a good word, including Natureland, which is our local zoo and conservation kind of zone, they were unaware of this plan change until recently, and therefore they didn't make submissions. So it didn't reach affected parties. Lack of community consultation happened. There were no meetings inside Tahunanui community. Geographically, it's quite hard to get to Manako, where there was one meeting held. There's no bus service. It was held at night. It was dark. There's no easy way to get there if you don't have a car.
Which is where the southern extension.
Yes, yes.
So it was held at the south end of the runway, and yet the most affected people potentially from this plan are at the north. So that seems a little bit unfair. There have been no other public meets face-to-faces initiated by NAL which is disappointing. Then, only Hind-End Communications, a glossy leaflet or brochure, was distributed to selected areas, and it had little quantitative detail. There was little granularity in it, including homes on Tahunanui Hills, and they will be affected by sound issues. It was available online, but a lot of our residents are older. They don't necessarily have internet access or a digital mindset. I did see one really cool submission when I was rereading them yesterday from someone who said, I am older, but I am computer savvy. And I thought that was quite cool, but it's not the same for everyone. I know my father would have problems. There was very little granularity. So it didn't really tell us how this plan change would affect people who live in Tahunanui with regards to living our lives, improving our homes, which is the Kiwi dream, kind of, and pursuing, there's businesses affected, pursuing the economic dreams. So, yeah. The process was very flawed. Jac here went into, is this NCC?
Yeah, so the photo on the left was in the main reception area at Nelson City Council.
Yep.
And this only appeared in the last week of the submissions. So there was no hard copy anywhere else for anyone
in the
Nelson region to look at it. The photo on the right was a photo I took at Nellie Nightingale Library, which is our local Tahunanui library.
Yep.
And all it is a printed form to fill out your submission with very limited data to make an opinion upon.
So the left is at the council offices in town.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the right was at the library, the public library.
And I think it's important that below where you see the old photocopy box, those are previous submissions and data from council. They're not in relation to. It's purely
under the box. They look quite old.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it is purely the Perplex, stand on the right hand side. Yep. Which had Nelson City Council form for submissions. Gotcha. And then to post it.
Thank you.
There. Yeah, so it's a very fine, the funnel is getting very fine for how to successfully submit. We're asking, is it of concern that NCC appear to endorse this program? Obviously they're a stakeholder, and yet they haven't adequately informed the residents of Tahunanui of the magnitude of change it will bring to homes, quality of life and haora, their health and well-being. Which is quite significant, really. It's a big gap
fundamental
in the reporting. The effects aren't clear. They haven't been spelled out to those of us most affected. So obviously Tahunanui is a low decile area. People don't have financial resources or time to deal with this. Not everyone will get mitigation under the existing comments that we have about mitigation. Reverse sensitivity has been used to avoid mitigation, and that's not what reverse sensitivity is about necessarily. The prospect of economic blight on the communities, for 10 or 15 years people will not see, there will not be interest in buying a property in the area because it's a bit of a death sentence financially. If you were a buyer, you would not buy there with that hanging over it. The plan change offers the airport too much control over residents' and businesses' lives in terms of they haven't stated their business case very thoroughly, but they want a lot of control. The Beecham Reserve itself is the only accessible and free recreational facility in Nelson. You don't have to pay to play. It's a boon for people on low incomes, and that having planes coming on over it is going to dampen that vibe. And the other thing is there's been a lot of misconceptions on social media locally. Oh, we're getting an international one-way. Oh, we're doing this. It's going to be great. If you don't like it, you're a beeping, beeping, beep. And the airport at no point have stepped in and said, no, that's not the case at all. This isn't what we're planning. So there's a lack of clarity around that. All we ask is for Nelson Airport to be a good neighbour. We'd love to have an in-depth social study. Sorry, Jac, do you want to jump in at this point?
That's fine.
Because, sorry, I got carried away. I always do this. We don't have one, and it's significant. And there's a recommendation by Rebecca Foy.
Yes, we heard from her yesterday.
And she's just said that it's ridiculous. Essentially, there should be a social impact study, and it shouldn't be funded by individuals. And then we'd like to look at a lot of pilots, and there's a lot of reports about perhaps exploring the EMAS system, which could actually bring around saving a whole lot of this bother. It has potential as an approach.
I'll talk further to that tomorrow. I have a talking spot.
No, that's fine. Yep.
And essentially, we'd prefer that to be somewhere in the middle between Stoke, Manako, Omaio, and Tahunanui. Just share it, and everybody wins, in our viewpoint, from a social perspective and an economic perspective. So, Jack, sorry. I apologise, I got carried away.
So sorry, I hadn't seen many people do PowerPoint, so I thought maybe ours wasn't going to be utilised. So I've written some notes, and I'll try
no,
to.
That's fine. Well, it's really helpful. It's great to have things on the screen, but the reason that it's also helpful to have a print, it's because I can scribble notes down.
Right.
So feel free to speak to what notes you've got in front of you.
And we will submit a typed version of what I'm about to read.
That would be fantastic.
Tomorrow, if that's okay.
That would be fantastic.
I've had an arthritis flare up.
No, totally
So,
understand. If you
thank
just
you.
send it through to Harry, he'll make you, as you would have seen. He's very quick at getting things to us. So that would be great.
So I'm just going to give you a summary of who Tahunanui are. The Tahunanui community is from Magazine Point on Rocks Road in the north to Quarantine Road in the south, covering the flats and part of the Tahunanui Hills. Many of our community either visited as children on holiday or have returned to their beloved beachside homes and community as adults. There is a fierce loyalty and strong community spirit. Nelson has one of the most moderate climates in the world. It is a beautiful region boasting 3 national parks on its doorstep. Yet Tahunanui feels like a suburb that is forgotten or often overlooked. We have an increased concern that there is underinvestment in Tahunanui, and it could be argued that there is increased ghettoisation, and whilst other suburbs prosper, Tahunanui has stalled. Social deprivation, health and wellbeing. We are a suburb of uncertainty, as has been mentioned numerous times by expert witnesses. They reference the 2004 structure plan, which is the Tahunanui structure plan, the 2004 reserve management plan, and I'd like to also add the 2004 Environment Court ruling about where the State Highway 6 was to be. This has been a political football for over 20 years and still has no clear solution. Now, the reason I'm adding this is that, ironically, the reason that the Environment Court said no to a state highway being directed from Tahunanui to Victory was that the issues that Tahunanui face now. There's been no mitigation to support the community on air quality, community segregation and social deprivation. An example of this is TBCA have been working for over 20 years asking for safe access across the state highway. We've only just got 2 more pedestrian refuges coming.
In the last month.
So it's been a very long process. Tahunanui community has the highest socio-economic deprivation profile in wider Nelson, 2018. This is from EHINZ website. That too is woefully outdated since it was the 2018 census results. Since then, Tahunanui has had the majority of social and emergency housing move into approximately half of its motels, the rest used for tourism. We at TBCA have queried NCC for a social impact study on the health and wellbeing of the Tahunanui beachside community residents since 2022, as the roading through Tahunanui didn't then and still doesn't meet World Health Standards. Unfortunately, that presentation to Council was the week of the 22 weather event, and the Mayor was Rachel Rees, and then we had a new Mayor come in after or during the clean-up of the weather events. The Tahunanui Community Hub, St Stephen's Church and Tahunanui School have been asking for a social worker for the past 2 years and are working on a collaboration to seek funding for this. Currently, the pressure of the cost of living crisis sees the TCH provide free food to those in need. Sadly, there is never enough. I'd just like to talk about housing. Tahunanui School has close to a 30% transient role. That's up to 100 turnover in their role in a year. The main reason noted for this is the lack of suitable housing. We have the motel social housing, which we've already referenced, but we also have old sausage flats in Gulf Road, which are, I think, do you understand what a sausage flat is?
1950s little chalet style things.
I do.
And so they're 1 and 2 bedroom units, which often have families of more than
Sort of like the old ownership
4 or 5.
sort of
Yeah.
flat.
Yeah, they often have 4 or
Yeah.
5
So-
people.
And I think these easily represent some of the worst low-cost housing in New Zealand. This is important to note, is under the airport's new
Zone.
overlays and the lack of development and the cost added with the new requirements is going to be a lot. I think Jude has mentioned recreation, but many of our activities are free and accessible to locals and visitors alike. It starts at 6:15 every single morning with Me versus Me, which is a local initiative about mental exhaustion versus mental elevation, where they all go into the water they're mad, I've tried it once. They go in the water for about 10 to 20 minutes, and it's a matter of just letting all your worries go once you go under the water,
And it's
then
now
starting your
happening
day.
around the country. That's really picked
It's
up.
a great initiative.
Is this an all year round?
Yes.
So people are braving it at winter
All
time?
year.
But
Yeah.
on the weekends at 7
And-
a.m. it's a bit
Yeah,
better.
so whilst it starts at 6:15 with the core original people,
Yeah.
there's different people doing it throughout the day as well.
Thank you.
Stakeholders. Camp is performing robustly financially under great governance and management teams. We would like to take the opportunity to acknowledge the camp leading the charge and discussion around Plan Change 30 and its ramifications for our wider beachside community. Ironically, we had been in discussions with the camp who were looking at establishing a Tahunanui specific funding pool for the benefit of individuals and groups in the Tahunanui community. Sadly, their focus now is instead fighting Plan Change 30. Natureland. Again, an exciting turnaround under strong leadership. They have a breeding program called Breed for Release with a partnership with DOC, feeding native birds into the Abel Tasman National Park, Mount Bruce, and there is discussion for future partnership with the Brook Sanctuary. I'd just like to quote a letter that Leah, the manager, sent me, which is from DOC, and it says, I've been in touch with the manager of the Kakariki Karaka, or the Orange-Fronted Parakeet program, Wayne Beggs, and he doesn't think that Natureland would be a suitable site for including in the captive breeding program. Kakariki Karaka are much more sensitive to noise and disturbance than yellow-crowned Kakariki, and are prone to dying in captivity due to stress. The regular passage of low-flying aircraft in particular would be a significant issue, so it is not worth pursuing this one.
Is that, if you could attach, that's quite helpful.
You'd like
if
that
you
one?
could attach that to
Yep.
your stuff.
Definitely.
Does that relate to the airport? Does that relate to the situation now?
I'm
is-
just, that's where it is currently.
That's
Yes.
where they are currently.
That's not projected.
No, that's fine. So that's I
that's the
understand
current,
that. No,
yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
So the new manager, they got a new manager in early 2023. She was rung by concerned community members concerning Plan Change 30. Unsure how that would work considering Nelson City Council help fund Natureland and the strong link of Nelson City Council with the Nelson Airport, Leah rang Nelson Airport directly and asked if the planned airport extension to the north would have an adverse effect on Natureland. She was told no need to submit as it would have no adverse effect. With the planned extension to the north by Nelson Airport, freight projected to double and passenger numbers increasing, a lower flight path over Tahunanui and Natureland. Natureland believes they have no option in good conscience but to close due to the adverse effects on animal welfare. Which brings us to the engagement with Nelson Airport and the Tahunanui community, and the poor process by Nelson City Council in engaging and supporting the Tahunanui community through Plan Change 30.
Yes. So there has been another plan change in Nelson recently that caught a lot of attention, which is Plan Change 29.
29. Yeah.
With densification. You might have heard of it. It's been quite popular around the country. And we asked Nick Smith, our mayor, he came to our AGM on the 29th of June 2023, And we said, look, it's a huge document, 154 pages plus supplementary information. It's very hard for people with working lives to pass this. Can we have some more time? And he said, no, it is the law, it is set in law, and it cannot change. When Plan 29 came along, the council was happy to extend the consultation process because there were people complaining about it. So we have been subject to a different set of rules. If you read the submissions, time and again people say, how on earth do you expect us to read this in 4 weeks and come up with a response? So consultation has been a little bit different, and compared to that plan change. And as I spoke to before, there's been difficulties. The NAL have been avoidant in meeting with the community, engaging in the community, or even actually providing the plan change so people could submit to it. There have been comments that the online form was difficult, but the paper one was even worse. That's in one of the submissions. I can include that in our documentation tomorrow and call it out. As Jac's talked about, there was no hard copy until she spoke. So apart from that,
I think this is really important, that one.
yeah, and the timeline. So Paul and Jac in early June, 14th of June, visited NAL requesting engagement.
I think it just needs clarification that the submission process opened on the 10th of June.
Yep.
So just to have a...
So perhaps you'd be best
Okay,
to speak to
sorry.
this because I didn't attend that meeting.
Yeah. So Paul, who was the... were you still the chair then? I don't know if I've taken over.
Until the 29th.
And I visited after requesting engagement, requesting engagement at that time. On the 15th of the 6th, brochures were available for us to collect from customer service to distribute in the library and at the community hub and other key areas in the community. 20th of the 6th, 23, dates provided by NAL for us to respond. The 21st we replied, 21st we agreed that Tuesday the 27th would be the proposed meeting with Nelson Airport. 27th of the 6th we had a meeting in the boardroom at the airport. TBCA presented a series of questions that we had asked the community to contribute to. They weren't our questions, they were from members of the public that could be answered, so we could inform community as a meeting in Tahunanui for the residents wasn't wanted by Nelson Airport. Other emails backwards and forth. That's the 27th of the 6th. Be mindful that submissions closed on the 10th of the 7th, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
We got the answer to those questions on the 10th of the 7th, 2023. Okay. I don't think anything else needs to be said about that.
That's fine, thank you.
In conclusion, are you right for me to wrap it up?
Do it.
In conclusion, we all love living in our beachside community of Tahunanui. We value the airport as our neighbour and we don't wish to stymie its potential. I think it's really important that to get the clarification that we're the most deprived community in Nelson, on a scale, the highest scale, to parts of South Auckland and other deprived areas in New Zealand. We looked at ehines.co.nz, which is the Monitoring New Zealand Environmental Health tool, which looks at various things such as air quality, hazard substance, population vulnerability, indoor environment, and the list goes on. Our question is to Nelson Airport. You reference the environmental challenges to the southern runway extension. We'd just like to know whether you've given the same consideration to the north, especially around the social deprivation. So,
Thank you.
just got to quickly add, because the process of so many of our structure plans and different things all date back, 20 years.
2004, yeah.
I don't know what happened in 2004, but it seemed to be a little bit of a boom,
busy
didn't
time.
it?
Yeah.
The community hub, which I'm a chair at, we decided that we needed to have a more integrated and collaborative approach with stakeholders in our community. We commissioned, with funding thanks to DIA, a project which is the most up-to-date resource listing what the concerns are in Tahunanui. I'm happy to share this with you as well. It's not a publicly available document. The 8 main key areas that the people who did the report came out were the role of the hub, food security, housing, identity crisis in Tahunanui, infrastructure, lack of facilities, resilience in an emergency, and safe roading. Like, you may ask, that could be Nelson City Council's responsibility and possibly the government, but we're just sick of the inaction, and we decided that we needed to put something positive moving forward. Thank you very much for the time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't actually have any questions. You've actually answered I'd made a few notes at the beginning, and then you've actually answered them as you've gone through, so I don't need to go back and revisit those. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Very, very useful, very helpful to us. Thank you for that.
It is
Thank
really
you.
helpful, and thank you for, I know you've sat, or some of you have sat through the process, so you're able to reference, Ms. Foy's work that she presented to us yesterday, and you've also been able to reference some of the other comments that have come through, which is really helpful to bring us right completely up to date. Do you have any questions?
I just want to understand, make sure I've got the understanding of your concerns correct. I mean, you've raised concerns about consultation process, but ultimately, putting that to one side, the real concern is what the impact of the notice of requirement and the plan change 30 will have on the
Residents and businesses.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's,
Sorry, it probably got a little bit hidden in that history about
No,
Tahunanui, but I think
not at all.
being locals, you needed to know. It's very easy to walk to the beach, even as a local, and not appreciate the deprivation.
yes. So in terms of those two matters, Ms. Stevenson, it's the increased noise exposure that would occur, and the constraints on residential development or any new residential
Especially
development.
considering it's such a area which is prime for development. Like, I know Kai and Ora are going to speak.
Yes, they are.
And we've
Yes.
had conversations with them requesting more accommodation in our area for the elderly and especially young families.
You're talking
which
about
is
plan change 29.
but interesting, Plan Change 29, the Tahunanui flat has been taken off.
Oh no.
And originally it was 3-storey densification.
So
near the
we
bottom.
question why that is. That we've been told it's because of a climate report, but it, maybe I'm just being a bit sceptical
But
with Plan Change 30.
We will
timing.
hear from Kaingora, and I was going to say that it isn't just residential issues of concern. You also raised, like the nature land, for example, impact on recreational use of the area, etc. You've also, supported what the campground told us. So it's the broader effect of noise in particular on those businesses essentially.
I think it's fair to say, as a board, we actually feel like we've left the community down. We had only a month to get our head around it ourselves, and if we had longer time, we would much prefer a more collaborative approach with all the residents that are under the underlays.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
And as a comment, it feels like it's very rushed for something that is 10 to 15 years away. It just, and with not that clear a case as to why.
No, thank you.
I actually left out a quote, having not attended on Monday, but watched it online, from the CEO, Mark Thompson. Change involves pain. All choices have pain points. I won't say what I actually thought at the time, but we strongly disagree and would prefer a collaborative approach. Pain is a symptom of something being wrong. Cole just wants to quickly just say something.
Yep.
Excuse me for a moment. I think it's fair also to say that our approach as TBCA is not anti the airport.
Yeah, no, that's clear.
But the problem that we have is that they seem hell-bent, sorry about the expression, on extending that runway to the north. The distance that they want to move between the existing threshold of the runway and where their new development finishes is 610 metres. That is the distance from the church steps to the Maitai Bridge. We're not talking about 5 yards down the road. And that encroaches purely into the whole area of Tahunanui. That's our concern, thanks.
No, I understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.